He started off the season on fire, leading the team to a 3-0 start. But since they faltered, going 2-4. Let's take a look now at just how up and down his season has been. His average total QBR through the first 3 games was a solid 63, then a significant drop-off in weeks 4 through 7, followed by a decent recovery in the last 3 games. Stephen A., you know this city very well. How important is this Seahawks matchup for Mr. Wentz?
Believe it or not, it's not that important. A matter of fact, a legitimate argument should be made that this is a game he shouldn't even play. They should consider it to starting Chase Daniels, for crying out loud. Why can you sit up there and put him through that kind of stuff going on right now? How could you do that to him? Because here's the reality. When you think about Carson Wentz, here's what's going on. You've got Jordan Matthews, whose back is messed up. You got Zach Ertz with the bulky hamstring. You've got Aguilar, who hasn't had a 50-plus yard receiving game since the opening against the hapless Cleveland Browns. You've got Dorial Green, Beckham, who wasn't even targeted last year. You have no wideouts to speak of, and you have a running game which is suspect at times going up against Seattle. This is a doomsday scenario for the Philadelphia Eagles, who are on the road. This is not at home at Lincoln Financial Field. This is a bad, bad day. This is one of them games that I would actually think about taking Carson Wentz out early, because he may very well end up getting himself hurt in this particular game, with Cam Chancellor being out, with Earl Thomas having done what he did to Gronkowski, with Tom Brady wincing because of the hit Cam Chancellor put on him. I mean, this Seattle defense is returning back to the elite kind of form we saw a couple of years ago. I'm worried about Carson Wentz so much in this game. I don't think it's a big game for him at all. We should expect him to lose. We should expect him to get beat up. And we should pray that Doug Peterson gets him the hell out of there early before he gets himself hurt in this particular game. A game in which, by the way, I think the Eagles have little to no chance of winning.
Stephen A. Smith, today you are the broken clock. You are right, finally, on a subject today. It is not that this is a big game for Carson Wentz. It's that this is a big game for the perception of Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, just use here's the eyeball test you always want me to use, Stephen A. Smith. He's good. He's good. Just like Dak Prescott, you could tell early on, boy, that's a good quarterback. Carson Wentz, same thing. You look at it, well, that's a good quarterback. You can see it. He can play. And when Lane Johnson was in, when his offensive line was better, QBR was 70, and he was balling. And then he loses some protection, and all of a sudden, he's not that good anymore. So the perception will be, if Seattle really beats him up and wins, as you mentioned, at home, that he's, what's going on with Carson Wentz? And they'll be talking about it, and we'll be talking about it on TV, and it'll be in the papers and online, and whispers, maybe he's not as good as we thought. Boy, Dak is really the guy you want. No, it's the situation he's in. Carson Wentz, if he stays healthy, looks like he's going to be a really good quarterback for a really long time. That's what it looks like to me. And I don't think you can base anything on the Seahawks game. That said, they have chances to win this game. One of the problems with Chip Kelly in San Francisco this year is if you have a talent gap, if you're worse than the other team, you want lower possession games. You want fewer possessions in the game. Because the more possessions there are, the more action there is back and forth, the wider the score will tend to become in the other team's favor. They're better than you. When there is a talent gap, if you think the Seahawks are better than the Eagles, and I think we agree about that, you'd like a lower scoring game where each possession, each score is worth more, and you have more possibilities toward the end of the game. And given the Eagles' defense, and I think Peterson was right about this, not that they're the best defense in the league, but they're among them. That's a really good defense the Eagles have. This could potentially be a low-scoring game, giving the Eagles a better chance to win toward the end, more opportunities. So I think it's winnable. I think Carson Wentz could even be the hero in a game like this. But if he loses, as they are likely to do, big deal. What does that have to do with the quality of Carson Wentz? It has to do with the quality of the team he's on at the moment.
He doesn't even need to be playing in this game as far as I'm concerned. He can play. He's the starting quarterback, so I guess you got to put him out there. But I'm concerned about his health in this particular game. He has no weapons. As far as I'm concerned, he's nothing more than target practice for the Seattle Seahawks. And if he ends up being anything more, it's because the Seattle Seahawks, who played against Buffalo a couple of weeks ago on a Monday night, had to fly across the country to go up against the New England Patriots the very next weekend on a Sunday night, and now are back in Seattle for this game. Either they're tired or they were just disinterested in playing. But if they have any interest in playing whatsoever, Carson Wentz may not survive this damn game because he has no weapons to speak of, because none of his weapons are out there healthy. I'm very, very worried about him for this game, and I think the Eagles should be as well.
All right, well, if Wentz can go up to Seattle and he can get a win and deal with those 12's huge statement game, especially after Seattle just went to Foxborough and beat the Patriots, so we shall see. But coming up next, yesterday, though, Russell Westbrook was inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. Congrats to him. The legend Michael Jordan presented him at the induction and praised Russell for his loyalty to the city. Take a listen.
I think another thing that you guys should be proud about is the sense of loyalty that this kid has shown to the state of Oklahoma. I'm not here to try to bash anyone that's not here. Everybody has a choice. I'm not saying that you don't have a choice. Everybody has a choice. And when I saw that he chose to stay here in Oklahoma, I was so proud, and as Clay know and as Russ know, I texted him to show a sense of respect.
1 year ago, the Thunder organization gathered in Tulsa to induct Durant into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, and Westbrook was his presenter. Stephen A., were Jordan's comments a little bit of a shot at Durant?
A little bit, no question about it. Whether intended or not, Jordan's not going to care about that. He's not trying to get at somebody like that on purpose, but he is going to say what he feels, because Jordan is as real as they come. And there's a level of respect that gets elevated when you see Russell Westbrook making the decision that he made to stay on board, to be committed, to understand that the loss of Kevin Durant is devastating, but he's still going to stay there and fight and fight and fight. Old school cats like Jordan, like Magic, like Isaiah and others respect that, even though they all recognize the fact that free agency back in their day wasn't what it is today. They just could not conceive of joining the other as opposed to fighting against one another. And just to put things in this proper perspective, Max, understand something here. Charles Oakley, for example, is a brother who would take a bullet for Michael Jordan. Patrick Ewing is as tight and as much of a brother to Michael Jordan as almost anybody. Michael Jordan loves rubbing in Patrick Ewing's face and others how he beat them. And he denied them opportunities to win a championship. That's the kind of guy Michael Jordan is. And so when you look at somebody like Russell Westbrook, who is clearly the most ruthless competitor in basketball as far as I'm concerned, he will cut your heart right out of your chest if he could to beat you. Knowing that kind of talent that he is, and considering the commercial that they made months ago, some run, some make runways. There's no other way to interpret this. We understand what it is. I just think that, and you got to remember, the Jordan brand is a part of the Nike brand, and Kevin Durant is represented by Nike. So nobody wants to be but so flagrant with it, but they don't care that much either about stating where they stand and what position they support. Russell Westbrook's that way. Michael Jordan's that way. They know they don't need to speak on it. They know they could leave it for interpretation because they know it's obvious what everybody will interpret it to be. Russell
Westbrook's my favorite player. And he's a lot of people's favorite player precisely because he's a flawed player. The over aggression in him. He's overly aggressive at times is amazing to watch, because how often in life do you get to see someone achieve at just about the highest level in the world just unbridled aggression? That's what's driving them. It's something to see. It's something to behold. And so Kevin Durant, unfortunately, is in this situation because we talk about this. Why isn't Kevin Durant greater than Larry Bird? He should be. He's taller, he's faster, better defender, better scorer, really. But no one's taken Durant over Bird, because Bird had that at this position. Obviously, LeBron's the greatest small forward who ever lived. I'm talking about who's second. Because Bird was alpha. And that's not KD. KD's personality seems to be the kind of guy, not like Jordan, not like Bird, not like Magic, the kind of guy who wants to fit in and be part of a team. Just naturally, that's what he wants to be, seems to me. And I find that interesting. I'd like to live in a world where that there can be an exception to the rule. Where, hey, look at that, Kevin Durant won championships and he didn't do it the way everyone else did it. But it's his misfortune that he is going to be compared and contrasted with a guy who is emblematic more than anyone else of the Jordan, Kobe, Bird kind of ruthless mentality, which is Westbrook. It's not like KD was just on a team with another great competitor who's also a great player. He's on a team with the competitor, with the force of nature, Russell Westbrook, with the guy whose personality makes him somehow more than the sum of his parts. And that's who he's going to be compared to. So Jordan doesn't even have to be aiming at KD, nor does anyone else. They just need to be telling the truth about Russell Westbrook. Because when you tell the truth about Westbrook, it feels like a shot at KD. How can it not? It's just KD's misfortune that he was on that guy's team and that's the dynamic. And from now on till the end of time, when people talk about Westbrook and his qualities that we most admire, in this case, loyalty to the franchise, ruthless aggression, ultimate competitor, alpha personality, gonna sound like you're taking a shot at KD. How else can it sound?
Yeah, it sounds that way, but do you think that's what Jordan was doing?
No, I think he's just trying to compliment Westbrook. That's my point. Ged, right now, talk about Westbrook, Stephen A. Smith, and make it not sound like you're taking a shot at KD. It's hard, right? I mean, it's hard.
It's definitely hard, but we also have to take into consideration who we're talking about here when we talk about Michael Jordan. The ultra competitor, the ultra assassin, somebody that comes at you and is unapologetic about it, but never spoke about it. When he had wars with the New York Knicks and Jeff Van Gundy particularly, he never said anything. He balked at Jeff Van Gundy. You knew that, but he never said anything. When he went at Clyde Drexler and literally destroyed Clyde Drexler, okay, whether it be in the NBA Finals or in practice during the Olympics or whatever the case may be. He never spoke against Clyde Drexler. He just exercised it, okay? When he went up against the Detroit Pistons and the Bad Boys and what they were trying to do to him and what have you, he left the complaining to other individuals. He went out there and tried to take them out, but at the same time, he didn't speak against them. When Isaiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons walked off the court prematurely, which was a black mark against that franchise, and it was much more into that meets the eye, and everybody should go back and watch the 30 for 30 that was done on the Bad Boy Pistons because that explains a lot. Nevertheless, what did Jordan say after that? Jordan didn't have much to say. Jordan is notorious for saying a lot by not saying much. And that's what it was. It's one thing for Russell Westbrook to be inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. It's another thing for MJ to introduce him. And not only to introduce him, and he should, by the way, because Russell Westbrook is like a signature brand for the Jordan brand with what he brings to the table, but to go up there and to introduce him and to say, I'm not here to knock anybody. Yeah, Jordan's not necessarily trying to knock him per se, but at the same time, we are talking about Jordan, who has a profound